Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Categorically Romance podcast. My name is Bree, and joining me today for the second time, I'm so grateful, is editor Susan the Queen Litman. Susan, thank you for joining me again today.
Well, thank you so much for having me for that fantastic introduction.
And I have to say, listeners, like, I really have no idea where this conversation is going, which makes me even more excited. I just know Susan has things to tell us about what is happening. So you all will be just as surprised as I am. So let's start here. Susan, how has 2023 been for you? Like, we're recording this kind of towards the end of December. Looking back on the year, how has it been for you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's been definitely a year of a lot of hectic things, lots of change. I mean, we were just talking about how, you've seen some changes starting to creep in, and we're definitely making some changes to special edition and to the continuity program. For instance, you mentioned seeing some covers changing and things like that. So for those who don't know, starting in 2024, our word count in special edition is going up to 70 to 75,000 words. So there will be more story coming to you, which is, I think, so exciting. I'm really thrilled about that. And the continuities, which used to be a part of our special edition monthly lineup. So you'd have one Montana Mavericks or one Fortunes of Texas as part of our lineup. We're splitting those off. They'll be a separate product line. And for the first time, I think since any of us can remember, the Fortunes of Texas and Montana Mavericks will be on the shelf together simultaneously every month. And there will be 12 books a year instead of 6 months of Montana Mavericks followed by 6 months of Fortunes of Texas. So it's definitely been a complex year as we've tried to work out a lot of these details, including the storytelling, etc., and how to manage schedules and author schedules and things like that. But it's been very exciting, and I think readers are going to be surprised and hopefully find a lot to dig into when these books start hitting the shelves. And I hope people really love what they see, both in special edition and in the continuities. And I think they will. I think they will. I think we're really delivering on all fronts. And I'm very excited by the editorial.
Okay, so let's start with the continuity because those are big deals. People, we love those series. What inspired the change or the path, that the direction that the continuities for special edition are going?
Well, I think that you're talking about the sort of making it a standalone
Yeah.
kind of program. I think it's because two reasons, really. On one hand, we'd like to really highlight special edition, the editorial. And on the other hand, we want to give these books an opportunity to stand on their own outside the line.
Okay.
And this
Yeah.
was really the best way to do that.
That is so cool.
Yeah, and
Okay.
they've been around a long time, and so this is the first time that they really will be on their own, so to speak.
And for anybody that's listening, like those series, like for from as an editor perspective, if somebody's completely new to special edition, they can just jump in at any time, right?
I think they can just jump in at any time. I mean, we're not putting these together as like to clarify what a continuity is for someone who may not know. The best way that I can create a comparison for this is think of it as almost a limited TV series. So you have, 6 episodes or 8 episodes of a limited series. That's kind of what this is. And then it will come back next season, so to speak,
Mhm.
with a different arc. But a lot of similar characters, and of course, new main characters because we've got everybody needs an opportunity to fall in love, right? So I think that you can pick up a book and find a story to no pun intended, fall in love with, discover a setting that intrigues you, that discover supporting characters that interest you, and then think, "Oh, I wanna go back and read more. I wanna find out more about this town. I wanna find out more about this family and who these family members are and see what else is going on." And then if the more interested you get, you can dig back into that history and discover more series to discover and to read about. So you really can kind of start anywhere.
Let's talk about the word count. I know I personally
Mhm.
am really excited to see what the authors do with these extra words that they can use. Why are we getting that? And like what are you excited about for that, both as like the editor, the storytelling part of it, and then for readers?
So for special edition, yes, we're going up to 70 to 75. The continuities are going to be staying the same at
Okay.
55 to 60, which sometimes becomes interesting to juggle on a day of editing. Um, but I think it gives us an opportunity in terms of special edition editorial. It really gives us an opportunity to explore more layered stories, bring in the lives of secondary characters more and explore those interactions with our main hero and heroine and how they interact with family members and friends with people that they know in life and not necessarily only and specifically central to the romance but open up their lives overall and really see who these people are and it makes it a fuller story and it does enrich the romance as well. So I think that it will create a richer reading experience, a more layered storytelling. And the books that we've been seeing so far at the longer word count are really showing us that this was a great direction to go in.
Yeah, because community is such a big part of special edition, so getting to see more
Absolutely.
of the community, oh, I
Yeah,
think it's just gonna be so special.
absolutely.
When will we actually see, like, the longer books? Is all of this, like, kind of kicking off, like, in January, or will it be later on in the year?
So some of them have been kind of creeping in a little bit as the authors have been starting to stretch and figure out how to work this into their writing. But from a formal perspective, in in February, March 2024, you'll see the new covers and the new word count on the shelves.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I told you, like, I've been sort of seeing some covers changing as well.
Mhm.
What is up with that? Because the few that I have seen, I'm like, it still it still looks special edition, but it looks totally different at the same time. Like the few that I have seen have been gorgeous, and I'm like, okay, I recognize this as special edition, but it's
Mhm.
just I don't know, it's evolved so beautifully, and I can't wait to see more. Was all of this happening kind of at the same time, or like how did the cover change discussion happen?
Yeah, this was everything was sort of happening at the same time. So when I say it was a hectic year, this is exactly what I'm talking about. And I think a lot of it had to do with, well, how do we complement the editorial? How do we create a look that is clean and not cluttered and focuses on what this story is about and really sells the story and really tells the reader this is what you're getting in this book
Mhm.
without clutter, if that makes sense. And it was difficult. We would go through many different versions till we hit on something that we would all feel was the one. And when we finally hit on something that we thought, oh, this is it, that this really works for this story and this is the look that we're going for. It was a lot of back and forth, but we have a phenomenal art team and they really did. I think they did a stellar job. I think they're still doing an amazing job month after month. So I think readers are going to be really intrigued and thrilled when they see these covers. It's an exciting look.
Is there anything else before I like start asking about any books that we should like be looking out for in the beginning of the year? Is there anything else change-wise that we can expect?
Not beyond the changes that we've talked about.
Okay.
These are the big picture changes. Like your continuities are going to be, a separate, distinct product line, and your special edition books are going to be special edition. Basically,
Yeah.
we there will be, as I'm sure you've heard, there will be sort of books celebrating the 75th anniversary of Harlequin throughout the Harlequin series program throughout the year. So those would be things to look out for, and that includes in special edition. So readers should definitely look out for those. But yeah, there are going to be a number of titles throughout series celebrating the 75th anniversary of Harlequin, which is a
Wow.
big, big anniversary, and I'm so excited. We've got authors, everyone from Diana Palmer and Rayanne Thane to Brenda Novak to BJ
Oh
Daniels.
my
So
gosh.
there's in every series you will see some really big names.
Are y'all gonna have a party?
That's a really good question.
I
I don't
hope
know
there's
the
a
answer to
Harlequin
that yet.
party. Like, I
I
have
hope we do.
dreams of what a Harlequin party looks like.
There have been some rumors.
So, as far as the like, for subscribers, so if you subscribe to special edition with the continuities split, will that need to be like a separate subscription that they would need to do now?
That's a great question. I actually don't know the answer to that,
Okay. Okay.
believe it or not, because they are not technically part of special edition anymore. They are
Okay.
separate. I actually don't know the question. It's possible,
Okay.
but I could actually find out the answer to that. Um, but I would have to find out the answer.
Okay.
I
I can
never thought
always
about that.
I can
That's
always
a
put
great
that in show
question.
notes if you can find it. Yeah, cuz I mean,
Yeah, actually, if you could email me
I
right
will.
after, I can try and find out. I'm out of the office Monday, but I could try and find out on Tuesday.
Yay, okay.
Because I should know the answer to that.
Because I'm always telling people, like, "Do the subscription, just subscribe to the
Yeah,
line."
yeah, yeah, and I actually don't know how they're doing that, so that's a
Okay,
good question.
okay. So 2024, looking ahead, what what are some of the fun books that we can, expect to see? Because I think the beauty of category is you still just can get so much, and you don't necessarily know what obviously, like, it just there's so much. But I feel like sometimes it feels like readers are in very specific moods, like, it feels like sometimes we're in cowboy moods, and then sometimes we want kind of like the Terry Wilson fun New York City setting.
Mhm.
So, like, what are some of the things that like, we can expect to see in the new year? And like, what's coming across your desk that you're like, like, yes, I'm really interested in this.
So I think there's an amazing variety that readers are going to get. I mean, and I'm going to guess that we're talking about special edition
Yes.
right now. I mean, the variety in specials, I'm so excited about it. There's because we have everything from the Terry Wilsons telling the sort of more, cosmopolitan kind of sparkly romances. We've got Allison Lee with a new miniseries about a family in the Pacific Northwest dealing with an inheritance from their father who they struggled with over the years. We've got a new series from Christine Rimmer, series from Brenda Harlan. We've got lots of Westerns because readers love westerns, and we've got a new western series from Maisie Yates
Yes.
um, as well. We're introducing a new series, and actually, it's a debut in special edition and for Harlequin from Tiff Marcello, who's a USA
Oh.
Today bestselling author, and it's set in the Shenandoah Valley, so it's definitely not a western, but it's a fascinating series, and it is also our first Filipino characters. So I'm really excited about that. We've got an Irish set story from Mona Schroff, which is
Oh
sort
my
of like a
gosh.
road trip rom com. called Road Trip Rivalry, which I love. It's
Oh,
great,
I
and
love Mona.
it has it has an ending that just made me go, "Oh my god," on the last couple of pages, because I did not see the ending coming, and I felt like I probably should have, but I didn't, and it was so charming. It was a movie ending. Um, and we've got an amazing book from Rayanne Thane. There's
Oh my
just
gosh, Rayanne
yeah,
Thanksgiving.
there's
Oh, I love when she does that.
a
Love it.
lot coming up here. We've got a wonderful new miniseries from a newer author, Kaylee Newell.
I love
That's
Kaylee. I love that,
she's
oh my gosh,
great.
what's the series? The series, it's set, like,
The
I think
Christmas Bay series.
yes. Oh, Christmas Bay.
Yeah, and
I love the
this is set
covers on those.
This is set in Christmas Bay, but it's a very different kind of series. This
Okay,
is concerning a secret from the past and a family that has to deal with the fallout of that
okay.
secret.
The one with the
So it's
baseball, like, the baseball cover, the, like, dugout and
yeah,
everything. I was like,
yeah.
"Special edition is just after my heart." I loved that series.
And we've got a great set of books from Jennifer Wilk. Her upcoming title in November is called Deadlines, Donuts, and Dreidels.
Oh my gosh.
That's going to be in November 2024, which I realize is a long way off. But Jennifer is actually going to be writing two Fortunes of Texas books as well. So there will be a lot of Jennifer Wilk coming up in 2024, which is terrific. And Jennifer will be writing our first ever oh, she also has Matzo Ball Blues in April 2024, and Jennifer will also be writing our first ever Jewish characters in the Fortunes of Texas.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm really excited about that. I'm also really excited to have her in the Fortunes just because she writes a great book. But I was thrilled to bring those characters into the Fortunes of Texas as
Yeah.
well. So
I have to ask, I discovered this author in 2023, and we're actually from not very far from each other in Missouri, and I just loved that, like, I was like, "I know these places." Michelle Dunaway. Does she
oh
have
yeah.
anything? Does she have anything coming out?
Yes, she does. She does. We've got her in the special edition lineup, and she will be writing a Fortunes of Texas book as well.
Oh, okay, okay. What about, one that me and a friend read and talked about together on the podcast? We loved Lightning Strikes Twice by Elizabeth Ripp. Loved the cover, loved the book. Are we getting
Mhm.
another from Elizabeth?
We are getting another from Elizabeth, and Elizabeth will also be writing a Montana Mavericks book in 2025.
Okay. Oh my
That's how far
gosh.
ahead we are. That's how far ahead we are. But she had been on my list ever since Lightning Strikes Twice for a continuity, and I was thrilled that we could make it happen. So as soon as I read anything by an author, I start to think, and they go on like list A, and then they quickly move over to list B.
Yeah.
So
Well, can you've like some of the authors that we've named, you've shared that they're, this person's writing for this continuity. Is there any
yeah.
more you can tell us about the continuities? Like, is anybody new, like any other new authors coming over and writing for it for the first time? Can you share some more details
Oh
about
yeah.
those?
I mean, we have several first time continuity authors, so
I
to
think that's
speak.
always so special. I love seeing like their
Yeah.
first time because I just think that those continuities are so special. They've been around for so long. So when you see like, oh,
Yeah.
this is this person's
It's
first
really I
time,
mean,
it's
when you think about these projects, like Montana Mavericks launched in 1994,
oh my gosh.
and
Wow. Yeah.
it's a milestone year. So 2024 for me, I've been frazzled about the Mavericks of 24 for over 2 years because all I could think was, "Oh my god, 30th anniversary. How do we deliver on this?"
How do we
So,
deliver?
because I was so intent on and we have a longtime Bible writer that we work with, and we've been very intent on, "How do we make this special? What do we do? We
Yeah.
need some Easter eggs in here. We gotta make it unique. We gotta make it special." And I think we came up with a really strong arc that it's 12 books, but it's written in two 6-book arcs,
Mhm.
which is A, more manageable, but it's also, I think it's easier for the authors to balance and to balance with each other as they brainstorm. And so for the first 6 books, we've got sort of continuity. I always refer to them as returning champions because if you've ever worked on one of these, you understand why I use that term. So, everyone from Melissa Sennett to um, Stella Bagwell, and on the second half, Christine Rimmer, Kathy Douglas, and Brenda Harlan. And then we've got newer authors, newer to the continuities, I should say, including Joanna Sims and Heather Lee Bell. And then for the Fortunes of Texas, for 2024, we've got everyone from Michelle Major, who's definitely a highlight voice for us in
Yes.
special edition and in trade. And we're so excited that she wanted to come back and join the Fortunes lineup again, especially for such a great year. We've got Liz Beverly in the second half of the year.
Oh my goodness.
We've got Joe McNally, who I'm thrilled about. And then we've got new to continuity voices like Carrie Nichols and Michelle Lindo Rice. And we've got Jennifer Wilk.
Oh my gosh.
And we've got
Oh,
Allison Lee, who I jokingly refer to as the closer because she is an experienced closer and she knows how to tie those threads together, which is a very difficult position to
oh
be in.
yeah. I can't even imagine. I feel like
It's very hard.
yeah, I imagine that like I don't know, there's some pressure with being the first, but the last, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. So, it's hard to be the first too. It's
Yeah.
very difficult. So there's really no easy position to be in. But we've got, and that's just for 2024. We've got a lot of exciting things coming in 2025 too. 2024 though is, it's giving us a chance to highlight some really favorite characters. Like we're bringing back 90 something year old Winona Cobbs, who was a Montana Mavericks original. Like I just said,
Oh,
we have to make her
wow.
live forever. Um, and Winona Winona's getting married. That's all I'm going to say. You
Okay.
want to know more? Read the book.
Read the book.
But nothing ever happens. Nothing ever happens with Winona the way you think it's going to happen. Let's just put it that way. But she's a very special character in the history of the Montana Mavericks, and we just could not include an arc that made her gave her a key role. And there are other sort of unique elements that we're including, like, lots of Easter eggs involving the number 30, like someone pays off their ranch and a 30th anniversary gift that kind of, anytime anyone touches it, they magically fall in love, like little things like that. But in the Montana Mavericks, we can sort of play with those ideas and still tell a great Western with a lot of heart and soul. And the authors just throw themselves right into it, and it works really well. Like childhood friends who made a promise, like, hey, if we're not married by the time we're 30,
Susan, I
and guess
love
what,
that. That is one of
they're
my
30.
favorite plot lines, and I feel like nobody uses it. That is one of my
Yeah,
favorite
we
things.
did, we did. And the fortunes also, the fortunes, the fortunes are a different kind of western in that they have that more upscale, the generational wealth element to them.
Mhm.
And so we're carrying over this thread from 2023 where we're trying to unveil the sort of the real story behind a mining disaster that occurred in a small town in Texas, and sort of finishing the stories of a couple of characters, but bringing in new characters and discovering their connection to the famous family in Texas. And the second half of 2024 will continue that theme and introduce more characters. And that's why when you asked, can a reader just pick up a book and even if they don't know the stories that came before, I think they can, because you'll discover the story as you're reading the book that you've selected,
Yeah.
and you'll continue on, you'll want to continue on, but you'll probably also want to go back and find out what happened in the stories before, because ideally you'll enjoy the setting, you'll enjoy the concept, and you'll just feel like, hey, this is really entertaining, I want to dig into this a little more. So, and clearly there's no shortage of stories to dig into, but they're fun, they're entertaining, and there's something for every reader to enjoy.
To enjoy, yeah.
So,
One thing that I'm trying to capture because I from fellow podcasters that are part of these like discords. I've never been on Discord, so I don't have no idea how it works, but
oh, me either.
they're
Yeah.
like, "Hey, there's a lot of people interested in learning what category is because they're hearing about the new
Hmm.
line and they're like, "Oh, it's category. What is that? What is that?" So, for anybody that may come across this particular episode, we're talking about special edition, we're talking about the continuities are Montana Mavericks and the Fortunes of Texas. How, and I feel like you talked about this last time you were here, but if people come across this episode, how would you describe special edition, especially now? Because I feel like it's becoming one of those lines where there's just so much. Like that's what make to me makes it fun. Like if you want something really heartfelt and emotional, one of the books on the shelf, maybe even two, has that. But then, like, if you want fun and flirty, but we all still have that community aspect to it, there might be there too. So, like, how does it feel for you right now? Like, how would you describe it if somebody's like, "I'm going to give one of these a try, but I have no idea what this line kind of represents." Like, how would you describe it?
Well, I would start out by describing it as contemporary romance because I definitely think that that's what we are. Um, we are contemporary romance.
Yes. Yeah.
We're short contemporary romance, but
At its
compared to a
finest.
trade
No.
book, but we're shorter, I should say, because
Yeah.
if we're 70 to 75,000 words, but I think that our focus is on these characters and situations that a reader can relate to as they follow their story and their journey to finding true love.
Yeah.
And that's how I would describe it. And maybe that journey is more humorous. Maybe that journey is a little bit more dramatic. It depends on the story that's being told. It depends on who the author is. It could be Western. It could be like a workplace romance. It could be a story that involves pets. There are a lot of different ways to tell those stories, which, we know, I mean, but I think that under that umbrella of, contemporary, relatable stories, there really is something for everyone. And that's one of the things that I think is so unique about special edition.
Yeah.
In a month of 4 books, I don't think there's a book that I read and pretend for 2 minutes I don't work on them, but I don't think there's a book that I read that I can't fall into
Yeah.
because there really is something that pulls you into the story that you can find that you can just get so engaged with, whether it's the character or the scenario of the conflict, because it is relatable. And I think that's what makes this line unique and special.
Yeah, I think, one of my favorites from this year was The Bookstore's Secret by McKenna Lee. That book is just one of my it's,
Hmm.
like, part of my heart and soul. It was, like, sweet, and then all of a sudden it was, like, some steamy, and I was like, "Okay, McKenna Lee," but it still had this very comforting I think I put on Goodreads, I was like, I felt like I had a quilt around me, and I was, like, sitting on a front porch with, like, a cool
Oh.
summer breeze, like, it was just so beautifully written, but so fun at the same time. Like, it had a little bit of everything, and I think about that book all the time. Hands down, it was just one of my favorites of the year, and I was like, "Wow." And then Terry Wilson comes out with her new series, and I'm like, "This
Mhm.
is the same line." It's incredible. It's
But
so
that's
good.
and that's what I mean, like, the variety under the banner of special edition, it's to me like it's a bookstore unto itself, and I love that
Yeah.
because it also makes my day-to-day that much more exciting because I don't feel like I work on just one thing. I get to work on a multitude of concepts and stories, and yet it fits under this category concept of what special edition is ultimately. And like I can go from the Tiff Marcello to the Brenda Harlan to the Kaylee Newell to, the Mona Schroff, and ultimately we're delivering on the same concept to the reader, but each of those books is so different, and the reader is ultimately going to hopefully get walk away from each of those reads with feeling the way you felt. And that's what we're trying to deliver.
Oh, another one that gets me is Carrie Nichols, and she's just one of the coolest people ever. So, and to hear she's, like, gonna be in the continuity, I'm so excited. I love
Yes,
Carrie.
yes.
So 2025, I know that's a long ways away, but, I mean,
Oh
you've
God,
touched on it a
yeah.
little bit,
No,
but,
it's
like,
tomorrow. No, I'm kidding.
that's what it feels like. It's, like, 30 minutes from now. What
Right.
can you tell us anything more about 2025? Because 2024 sounds like it's gonna be super exciting. How is 2025 going to compare to that? Is it gonna outdo 2024? Like, what can we expect?
Well, our goal is to always outdo ourselves. I mean, I would hope that it would. I mean, we've got again, we've got incredible books in the schedule. So, knock wood. I mean, I'm not making any predictions, and I'm not going to like say too much because things. We're still at that stage where nothing is set in stone and things change
Things could
in
change,
terms of
yes.
what is in the schedule. In terms of continuities, the first half of 2025 is scheduled. Really exciting lineup in both continuities. Very, very exciting stories being told in both continuities. With very different elements. We're changing the settings up in a big way. I
Okay.
mean, obviously Montana will still be on Montana and Texas will still be in Texas, but we've decided, we're going to take a break. We're going to leave both towns behind and create brand new settings. So again, another opportunity for new readers to jump in. Um, and I think that overall, there's always going to be something for a new reader, whether it's a continuity book or a series book. I think there will always be an opportunity for a reader to find something that fits them, and from there to discover more.
Okay.
We invite that. Like we want new readers to find something that they feel they can connect with in our lineup, and come back for more. And I think we have a lot that will work
Oh.
for them. And we want our current readers to continue to find the books that bring them back again and again because, we love our readers. So and we think we have a pretty good idea of what makes them happy.
And you may have touched on this already because I feel like you may have answered it already, but what are you like loving about editing special edition and the continuities now and just being part of the line's continuous like growth? What are you enjoying most about it? Is it that every book feels so different or what?
I think that's a big part of it that yeah, I mean, of course, I love, working on stories that have different tropes and different, I mean, that's always entertaining to me because we all have our favorites, right? Like you love the longtime friends to lovers, and,
Yes.
I'm like a big friends or enemies to lovers fan. Second chance stories are great, but it's interesting to me to see how many ways authors can find to tell a certain kind of story, and it's amazing to me at how creative our authors can be, and even new authors find unique ways to tell a story, which is always what I spark to. Like if you can make me go, "Oh, I never thought of this before, I love this," then you've hooked me. And that's really what I look for in a book. Like make me forget that I'm working,
Yeah.
just get me to read, and so that's generally what our authors are able to do, which is why it takes me so long to edit a book because I forget that I'm working. Um, but
That has to be the best
I
feeling when you're
love,
like, "Oh, I should have been editing
yeah,
this."
exactly. Like, oh, like these 10 pages went by, but now I have to do them again. But I love that. I love that idea that you feel connected to these characters. You feel like you're pulled into the world of the book, and you don't put it down. I don't put it down and think, "Oh, that was a fun story to read." I put it down and I think, I am so sad that's over, and, like, now I have to go back to doing whatever I was doing because, you need to, like, pull yourself out of
Yeah.
the experience because you're done. And ideally, that's what a really great read does. It pulls you in and you need a minute to like extract yourself from the world because it's given you a place to go and you've kind of stepped in to another world. And it's not different from your world at all. Like it's not a fantasy in the sense that we're taking you to an invented world. Like you're not going to the upside down, you're not going to Hogwarts, you're not going to, but it's still taking you someplace else. And ideally, that's what our books do. Same thing with the Mavericks or the Fortunes. It's taking you someplace else. It's taking you to the ranching town where you can kind of follow the Christmas story and see how the is the family conflict going to get worked out, and is that hero and heroine, are they going to end up together, or is the family conflict going to just like keep them apart like it has for the last 20 years, or will they resolve it in time for the holiday, you know?
Mhm.
Are you going to be at that tree lighting with everybody in town? And I realize that makes me sound like a little bit loopy, but but you know what I mean. Like when you feel drawn into a great story, you feel like you're there.
Yeah.
And ideally, we want each of our books to give our readers the feeling that they are there
Oh,
with the
yes.
characters, feeling a part of the situation, experiencing it, and being a part of the setting. And we work really hard to try and achieve that.
I think you're doing a great
And
job.
I think that's really important to me, and I think that's what I love.
With the 70 to 75K, has it been
Mhm.
more challenging? Like, I think that if an author was used to, like, already writing that, like, telling them, "Okay, you have to cut 20,000 of these," that could be a struggle. It hasn't been a struggle to say, like, "Hey, you have more word count," and, like, they have to kind of adjust to, "How do I do this?" Does that make sense? Like, giving them the more space, is that a
Yeah,
challenge?
no, it's definitely a challenge because we were going from 60-ish, give or take a little bit, and then 60 to 65-ish. So it was definitely a challenge. Um, and we kind of had some leeway in saying, look, like do the best you can to get as close to 70 as you can, and then we'll work on it from there. And some authors naturally write longer, some naturally write shorter, and some kind of fall in between. And one of the things that you learn when you're editing, and this is different for every author, is some authors are more narrative heavy, some are more dialogue heavy. Some there you learn that there are places where you might want to trim to avoid some repetition, and maybe you want to bring in more dialogue because you realize, oh, this is a great place to have more verbal interaction because it will enhance the emotion. And maybe this is a great place to pull back on the dialogue because we want to kind of get into their heads a little bit more. So it's been an interesting experience, I think, editorially for the team because we're all, and when I say all, I mean editors and the authors, we're all kind of learning together. I think we've got a handle on it now, but for the first months that we were working on those books, because we worked so many months ahead, we were all kind of figuring out together where the sweet spot was for each author and how to achieve it in a way that the book felt right as opposed to feeling, not right. And so it
Yeah.
didn't feel forced. And I think everyone now is in their comfort zone. But for a
Okay.
while, it was a challenge. But it was a challenge I think everyone wanted to try and meet. And
Yeah.
again, like if you naturally write shorter, maybe it was a little harder. If you naturally write a little bit longer, it wasn't as difficult. Which is not to minimize saying, you write at 65, now you have to write 5,000 words more. That's not easy. But I think everyone started to think about, oh, how can I tell this story in a slightly different way? Which was the question that I sort of put to everyone and that I was working with, and everybody delivered without question. I mean, the continuity authors, got away with not having to worry about it. So
Right. Do you do most of your editing Like, I imagine you, because I just imagine you being, like, the coolest person ever, like, sitting in a New York City coffee shop, like, some hipster place in, like, Brooklyn, editing, and I'm just so jealous because 'cause I'm like, "These people have no idea that she's editing our special editions," as they give her latte. Or are you at home cozy, or are you, like, in the office? At like, what's your favorite place? Where can we typically find you editing our future special editions?
I mean, okay, like, I love this image that you have of me sitting in, like, a Brooklyn coffee house, because if that were true, I would be the happiest person on earth. BBC absolutely so happy. A couple of days a week, I am in the office, because we all are. I don't get much editing done there, I admit, because there are usually too many meetings. Um, Usually I'm at home, and at this time of year, I'm at home. I would love to tell you that yes, your image of coziness works, but I'm usually running back and forth to the thermostat, turning it up, going, "Why is it so cold in here?" I am wrapped in some sort of sweater or scarf, like because my hands are cold. But I usually use like a focus timer because I'm one of those people who gets distracted really easily.
Same,
So if
yeah.
like something goes by outside, I go, "Ooh, butterflies." Or the guys with the leaf blowers will come by to get rid of like the dead leaves in the neighborhood and the noise. Anyone who has leaf blowers in their neighborhood knows exactly what I'm talking about. That noise is just a focus killer,
Annoying, yeah.
and I can't. I can't. I just no, it's terrible. But once I get going, like that focus timer is the greatest thing on earth because it's like 25 minutes at a pop. I can probably do in an hour, I can do 50, 60 pages.
Mhm.
Um, and it's because like once I really get in, I don't get out. That's it. I'm in. Unless I have a meeting or something, in which case I have to like sort of structure my time differently. But I just like I put some music on like really quiet and just so that I can just hear it, and I just kind of throw myself into the book and I just go. And for me, the book that I don't want to stop is the great one.
Is the great
Or
one,
y-
yeah.
you know, yeah, yeah. The book that I and again, it's I might be editing it, but it doesn't feel like work.
If you realize,
And
like, I
that's
haven't had to, like, edit anything, do you just leave it? Like, is that a good sign, or is it, "No, I need to go back and, like"
No, sometimes it's like, "Oh god, now I have to go back and make sure I didn't miss something." But sometimes it's a great sign because sometimes you know, when you're very focused on what you're doing, you know that there are things that, you need to flag for a copy editor, it might be some repetition or this or that. There might be some grammar issues that you're flagging or some style issues that you're flagging for production to, style these text messages, things like that. Because I tried to do it once and they yelled at me. So I don't do that anymore because apparently I did it wrong. But I but most of the time, it's very rare that something goes through with like no, nothing goes through with no edits. But
Yeah.
there's light edits, there's medium, there's let me pull this apart and put it back together, which is a rarity. It really is. Um, but my authors know me. I'm hopeful that they trust me, and I think we will often have a conversation in track changes where I might say to them, I noticed this a few times. Was this your intent? If so, then I think we're on the same page. If not, you might want to go back and take a look at it, maybe recast it, because I'm not sure it's coming across the way you intend. Just as one example, or I always try to leave if I see something that I love. I always try to flag it and just say, oh, a smiley face or a heart or something because I want people to know when they're nailing it because they should be told when they're nailing it because it's great. Um, and when I get to the end and someone had the audacity to like wring some emotion out of my cold dead heart, you know, I never fail to tell them because like it's not easy to when this is the format that you've worked in for a very long time and we're constantly asking our authors and we're constantly asking potential authors for unique spins on things and fresh takes on things that's not an easy thing to deliver. And when authors deliver on that, and very frequently they do, I always say, I don't know how you did this, but you just moved me.
I love
And
hearing
and
that
I
you were moved.
but I want them to know that they did
Yeah,
that, because if they can move us, then
they
they're
can
going to
move us.
move the reader,
Yeah,
because we're steeped in it. So if you guys can move us, then you're definitely going to move the audience,
yeah.
and the thing is, the authors are so creative. They are really creative, and when they send me manuscript and go, I messed up the ending, I really don't know what I did, I always think, yeah, sure you did, because I get to the end and I feel blown away by what I've read.
Can you
So
share, like, like, recently edited or something you're working on now? Like, give us an example of something that, like, you just kind of fell into and were moved by. Aspiring writer that's listening out there, like, from the editor, something recently, like, or now that you're editing that you're like, "I was not expecting this. This took me by surprise." Like, give us an example.
so a couple of recent ones. So I finished a month or two ago. This is actually an April 2024 book, Snowed In with a Stranger by Brenda Harlan. It's, I think it's a very mature story because it involves a divorced hero whose teenage daughter really does not want him to get involved with anybody else.
Mhm.
And I really related to that because I grew up with a number of friends whose parents were divorced, and I kind of saw this from a lot of different angles when I was growing up. So I related to it from a different angle, of course, but and I thought the ending was really compelling.
Wow.
And it Brenda didn't bring it there the way I anticipated. She really kind of faked me out, and I was like, "You did it again. You made me cry." And she was like, "This is now what I try to do. I try to do this on every book. See if I can
Not
make
our
you cry."
cold-hearted
No,
Susan crying.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And then Sabrina York, actually the same month, A Father's Redemption, is an amazing story. And she kind of got a tear from my eye there. And then I have to say, May 2024, Tiff Marcello, our debut,
I cannot wait for
It
that
Started
book.
with a Secret, is a really amazing story. And I can't say that it made me cry, but it really made me emotional at the end because it's a story about a hero who does not know who his birth father is. He starts out by learning who his birth father is, and then he sets out to find him. And it's really a journey of, finding his family, but his family is not what he thinks.
Okay. Ooh,
um
okay.
and it's he really lies to them, and he has to sort of come to terms with the fact that telling the truth could blow things up, but confessing that he lied could also blow things up. So he's sort of caught in his own.
Talk about conflict.
The conflict in that book is like over the top,
Oh
and
my
it's such a juicy read, and it's really romantic because he falls in love with like the manager of the bed and breakfast, who feels like she sort of owes her career to the widow of this guy's father.
oh
And
my
the widow does not
gosh.
know that it's so juicy. Like, everybody just go read this book.
I am gonna get on that galley to see if it's there
Yeah.
yet.
And actually, just last night I finished editing a September book, by Laurel Greer, Their Unexpected
I
Forever.
love
And
Laurel.
that like made me cry a little bit at the end. It was
She's
very,
so good.
yeah, that was very emotional. And she's going to be writing a 2025 Montana Mavericks book. That's actually going to be her first continuity book ever.
Oh, I love a
So,
Canadian writing a Montana
yeah.
Mavericks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love that for
So,
her.
she's been wanting to do a Western for a while, and I was like, "Okay, we got you in." So,
Well, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Where can where's the special edition stuff? Like, where should everybody online be looking for information on special edition? I'll leave all the
so
links.
so on writeforharlequin.com, we've got guidelines, on harlequin.com, on amazon.com, on barnesandnoble.com, etc. books, and of course retail, all the usual retail outlets. Obviously, some of the books I just mentioned will not be out for a while, but don't hesitate to look for them when they are out. But yeah, the writeforharlequin.com, if you're thinking about submitting to special edition, that is where you'll find our most updated guidelines. I always recommend to people read the current month's releases, maybe read the next month's releases also, just to get a feel for what is being bought by the line, to get a feel for what we're publishing. Because I could talk about it till the cows come home, but really actually reading the books and getting a feel for the different storytelling in the month is the best way to sort of put it together with the guidelines and have it,
All
you
makes
know,
sense.
make sense.
Yeah, and they're just so good, so
Yeah. Yeah.
have fun,
And
happy
again,
reading.
the continuities will be sort of as a standalone product. We don't take submissions for continuities. Those are handled in a different way, but if you're submitting for special edition, just, do your homework, do your research, and yeah, we'll be curious to see what you got.
Is there anywhere online you're comfortable with people finding you?
Yeah, I'm at my Twitter handle is Susan underscore Litman. Twitter, X, whatever it's calling
Yeah.
itself these days. Sorry.
I still call it the Twitter,
I
sorry.
still call it Twitter. Like that's really the best place to get me.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining me again. You'll have to come back. I'll have to read some of the books and pick your brain about them. I can't wait. I've been so excited for this. So thank you.
My pleasure. I will come back anytime you want me.